Well, it went through a lot of different stages, and for us, it was from the release of the first issue, and then it started selling. Yeah, it started selling more, and then more, and then more. And from the success of that, we were already so happy with our success as comic book artists that we were, we didn't work in a hotel, which I worked in a hotel, and I worked cooking food, and I worked odd jobs to pay the rent while I was drawing. But now we were drawing full time and making enough money we could pay our rent and just draw. So that was the greatest gift ever. And so when it went to the next level of could this be a cartoon? Could this be a toy? We didn't think so. But when we worked on it and we worked hard on it, and then it was up to then you guys helped make it a success.
Yes.
So each level that has gone up has been with disbelief that we didn't think it would go there, but if it was going to go there, we were going to try to make it the best we could, so that even if nobody saw it, much like the first issue, we were still going to make it the best we could and hope for the best. It's also been a journey in that, say for example, the first cartoon was very special to us because the first comic books were written for an older audience, and we knew the first cartoon was for kids. And so that was very satisfying that we adapted an idea that was kind of intended for grown-ups into a kids cartoon, and the kids liked it, and it became silly and fun, and it was an adventure, and they loved the characters and the humor and the action. And then so that version, as it grew into the movies, which was kind of a combination of the comic books and the animation.
Yeah.
But then you look over the span of time, and there were some TV shows that were successful, some that weren't successful, some movies that were successful, some of the original fans don't like the new movies very much. There's some good things in those movies. They're not my favorite, but there's some good things in those movies. But I like very much the Nickelodeon 2012 series. It was really fantastic that it was so much for grown-ups and kids at the same time. And the comic series I like very much. So it's funny to see. I feel like we have a bunch of turtle universes we get to visit.
Yes.
What's funny, in the creation of the names of the turtles, it was while Peter and I were working on the origin, who they were, where they came from, and then it was a very difficult task to name them. Once you name them,
Yes.
it's forever. They're all defined. And so we thought about traditional Asian names because of the Asian martial arts, of a lot of the cultural history that we use to bring these characters to life. But we then also thought that it's also a very silly idea. Ninja Turtles was a very silly idea. So we said, well, we could name them American names, Steve and Bob and John or whatever. But it was not silly enough, and it seemed to take away from them. And so when I was younger, especially in high school, I was a huge fan of art history in general, but art history specifically. And then even in my high school, I did my graduating year, I did a mural.
Yeah.
That was my tribute to Leonardo da Vinci. And so I just blurted up to Pete. I said, wouldn't it be funny if we called one of them like Leonardo da Vinci, or Michelangelo, or Raphael? And Pete thought that was absolutely the funniest thing ever.
Yes.
And I just tell the story where it's kind of funny because before we named Donatello, there was a sculptor that I liked very much called Bernini. And Bernini was a wonderful sculptor, and I thought that he should be named Bernini, but Pete liked Donatello. So we went back and forth for a little while, and ultimately ended up with Donatello, but which I think was the right choice. Heavy Metal is as a magazine. It's something that I'm still very active in, and I'm still writing in. I still am publisher, but I have a couple of other partners, and we're doing every issue is a new adventure of working with different creators from around the world, whether it be something Grant Morrison's writing or right now actually I'm doing I wrote a story that is a incredibly talented two brothers from Mexico City called the Esau brothers. We're doing a story together, but I love Heavy Metal's world view in that we publish artists from Asia and Europe and our South Americas and North Americas and everybody in between. It's such a great melting pot of creativity. And then for other personal projects, I'm self-publishing a new book that's kind of like, the silly heavy metal parody called Spinal Tap.
Yes.
They made a big spoof on the music industry with heavy metal music, the music industry. I'm doing a spoof on comic industry, and it's called Drawing Blood, about a character that's created some characters, had some success, and now he's gone a little rock star crazy. And so it's a story kind of a character searching for his creativity and searching for what got him excited about comics in the first place and being a little lost. It's always kid stories and science fiction stories and other things, and that's the beautiful part of being an artist, where you can whatever you can imagine and you can write
and you can
draw it
and you can explore all the worlds.
Exactly, you can explore all the world, and that's probably the greatest gift I could ever imagine. Well, it's tough to bring something new to the origin, but I will say that only because we've talked about it so much over the years. But there is, I always like to remind people that so many of the ideas that came to life in the Turtles were from artists and creators and writers that inspired me, whether it be Jack Kirby, who created one of my favorite comics, Commandy. He was mutated animals, kind of like Planet of the Apes, that ruled the world, to Dave Sim, who created Cerebus the Aardvark, sort of a parody on Conan the Barbarian with an animal character, to Frank Miller's Daredevil, which the Turtles' origin.
New York.
Exactly, New York.
Hell's Kitchen.
It was sort of like pizzas. It was like, we picked like a little bit from New Mutants, a little bit from X-Men, a little bit from so many different comics that we liked, and sort of we pulled from all these different universes and put them all into a blender and kind of made up the Turtles. So it was really difficult, even you think like 35 years ago, to try to come up with an idea that's fresh and new.
Yes.
When so much had been done already. Marvel Comics and DC Comics had, thousands of characters and thousands of origin stories and thousands of stories that they had done. So try to come up with, from TV and movies and all that stuff, to come up with something original, it's like crazy.
And the new crossover with Batman too.
So exactly. So it's hard to find, so I think that we're lucky that we carved out a little bit of the universe just for Turtles, and we can still tell stories that are inspired by other stories, but also cross over with characters that, like the Batman Turtle story that we're working on now, the third series. It's a dream come true for me because, we're working, Batman was one of the three characters that I loved the most. It's Daredevil, Captain America, and Batman. When I was a kid, those were the best comics that I liked. So to have the Turtles starring with Batman is a big geek out moment for me. Very honored.